In the heart of the Zaraon Mountains, where the wind howled like ancient spirits and the stones whispered stories of forgotten times, lived a man named Bahir. 35 years old, his sharp eyes held shadows of a past he never spoke of, and his silence spoke louder than any words. Once he had been known as Bahir the Kind, a man who built wells in dry villages and gave bread to strangers. But time and betrayal had carved him into something else. Now the world knew him as Bahir the Robber, a phantom of the desert who struck caravans under moonlight and vanished with the dawn. Bahir was no ordinary thief. He didn't kill, nor did he harm the poor, but he robbed the rich with precision, leaving behind nothing but a symbol burned into the sand, a crescent moon with a single tear. His hideout lay hidden in the belly of the mountains, surrounded by loyal outlaws, each of them broken in their own ways. Among them was Yusuf, 32, a former soldier wronged by a corrupt general; Samir, 34, a scholar whose books were burned by a tyrant; and Layla, 30, swift and silent, who had once been a palace maid accused falsely of theft. Each of them had found purpose under Bahir's leadership, their lives stitched together by a shared vow: to survive, to fight injustice, and never to trust the world again. But the world had other plans. One night, as a sandstorm approached, Bahir stood alone on a ridge overlooking a village in the valley below. Darja, a place he had once called home. Years ago, before the sword replaced his smile, Bahir had lived there. He had loved once, dreamed once, but when his mother died from an untreated fever and no one from the village came to help, something in him shattered. The bitterness buried deep that day became the fire that forged the robber he now was. That night, the wind carried strange whispers. He turned. Behind him stood a cave he had never seen before. Its mouth glowed faintly, though no torch burned within. Drawn by something he couldn't explain, Bahir entered. Inside, the air was thick with an ancient chill. As he stepped deeper, voices echoed, not in his ears, but in his mind. "Bahir, son of Halimas, the time has come!" Flames burst in a circle. Shadows formed into tall, cloaked figures, Jinns. They were neither kind nor cruel, but beings of balance. "You have taken much from the world," said the tallest of them, his eyes like molten gold, "but we see a flicker in your soul buried deep beneath ash." Bahir said nothing. For the first time in years, he felt fear, not of death, but of being seen. "We offer you a test," the Jinn said. 30 days in Darja, as a beggar, as one of those you scorned. No wealth, no power, only truth. "If I refuse," Bahir asked, "you remain in this cave, forever, forgotten." He nodded slowly. In a flash, the cave disappeared. Bahir awoke the next morning in Darja's marketplace, dressed in tattered clothes, his back aching from the cold stone floor. The villagers passed by without a glance. "Get up, you wretch," muttered a shopkeeper. "No food for beggars," snapped a woman as he reached for a fallen date. He spent the day in silence, watching the same people he once knew, older now, weathered, but the same. There was the baker who had laughed as Bahir buried his mother alone, the blacksmith who had turned away, the healer who had demanded coin before even touching her. And yet, there were others. Rani, now 33, once his childhood friend, gave him water without question. Her husband had died in a raid, perhaps one led by Bahir himself. Yet she showed kindness. On the 5th day, he saw a boy fall near the well. Bahir rushed forward without thinking, lifting the child and wiping the blood from his brow. The mother watched with surprise. "Thank you," she whispered, then hesitated. "What's your name?" "Yunus," he lied. Each day after, Bahir helped where he could, patching roofs, carrying water, teaching children forgotten songs. Bit by bit, the village opened to him. They did not know he was the man they once feared. He saw his companions from years ago in a different light. Yusuf's brother now taught children swordplay with wooden sticks. Layla's younger sister ran a stall selling herbs. Samir's old master now read poetry aloud in the mosque courtyard. Something inside him stirred. Could the world change, or had it always been like this? And he had simply turned away. On the 30th night, the Jinns returned. "You have walked as a beggar. What do you see now?" "I see pain," Bahir said. "But I also see hope, and I see my own hand in their suffering." "Then choose," said the Jinn. "Return to the mountains, or remain, rebuild, and repay." He chose to stay. Bahir revealed his identity the next day. The village erupted. Some shouted, some wept, some demanded justice. But Rani stepped forward. "He carried my child when none of you would. He fed our elders. He gave more than he took." A silence fell. The imam of the mosque said, "If repentance is real, then let us be judged not by our past alone, but by our change." And so Bahir began again, not as a robber, but as a rebuilder. He repaired the village's broken bridge, taught farming techniques to younger men, helped establish a school. Yusuf returned as a guard. Samir donated books. Layla became a midwife. Years passed. Children grew up hearing two tales, one of Bahir the robber and one of Bahir the rebuilder. And under the olive tree near the village well, a stone was placed when he passed at the age of 64. It read, "Here lies Bahir, a man who was lost, a man who returned, and a man who helped others find their way." The story teaches us that no matter how far you fall, the road to redemption is never closed, but only those brave enough to face their own darkness can walk it.